got a question for you, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
You ever have intrusive thoughts? You know what I'm talking about? Like just that random shit that pops in your head. Don't really know where it actually came from. Like run that motherfucker over with your car or stick your dick in this thing that your dick does not belong in.
I'm trying to think. You asked me this earlier, and I'm trying to wrap my head about, like, have I had any of these kinds of thoughts? And I'm sure I have. I'm like, everyone has. But the fact that I'm trying to nail one down right now, it's like, I can't think of any right now. Give me some of your examples.
Well, I got a story about one. Like, my wife recently found out that she's not alone in this, in having the intrusive thoughts. Because she's been watching the TikToks about don't let the intrusive thoughts win, and then they'll show a video of somebody doing something really stupid. And she said to me, everybody has these weird-ass thoughts, and just some people give in to them. I'm like, yeah, I have weird intrusive thoughts all the time. We shared a couple of stories. Made her feel a little bit better about some of the weird shit that goes through her head. Now she started sharing. So the other night, I think we'd been watching TV, and we had it paused, and we were talking about something. And I don't remember what we were talking about anymore because of what happened. I just said something. I was kind of leaned forward a little bit, arms propped on my knees. And my wife just all of a sudden busts out laughing and goes, I'm sorry, but I just suddenly wanted to like karate chop you in the throat to see what kind of noise you would make. I'm like, what the fuck did I do? She's like, you didn't do anything. It was just it's the intrusive thoughts, Dane. It's the intrusive thoughts.
She might use that as an excuse now.
Well, unlike me, she doesn't normally let her intrusive thoughts win, though. Like, one of my intrusive thoughts became a notorious 6-month-long campaign on our Discord. the famous one? And anyone coming to this show is going to have zero context and are not going to know anything about what I'm talking about, but the people who listen now do. So, to those of you who are already in the know, I'm sorry, but I want to tell the story. But, you know, every episode could be someone's first episode. So, as you and the lovely people who might be listening to this hopefully one day will know, we kind of have a group Discord where all the different shows under the TSMP umbrella hang out and play. And Dalton has been running for years a listener-picked poll for a game that will kind of get rotated into their schedule, where he picks, like, 5 random games from his Steam list that they haven't played yet and just throws it on there.
Yeah.
And one such time, one of the games that was on the list was Duke Nukem Forever. And the game that was winning the poll was Fear, classic horror survival shooter. And I said to myself, it'd be funny as hell to just run roughshod over this and make everybody vote for Duke Nukem Forever. There was no plan. There was no organized, like, detailed list of things that I was going to do. It was just one of those, I'm going to do this. And I started whipping up AI-generated Duke Nukem content where Duke would berate by name people who had voted for the other game. And I even went so far as, like, I think this was like my pinnacle of shitposting. I think I peaked on this, Jeff.
This was a beautiful campaign.
Because Master Luke got in on it too.
Uh-huh.
And I think he still listens to the show and stuff, but he's, you know, been out of Discord for a while. I talked to him a while back, and he said he just needed, like, to get off the internet for a bit, work on himself, which I've been there. I get it, yeah. And Luke, if you're listening to this, I love you, dude. But he joined in with me because he just decided this is the funniest shit he had ever seen, and he wanted into. But my magnum opus of this entire campaign was I pull out this big-ass Rubbermaid that has all of my old PC games in it. And I go rooting through it. And I own a copy of Fear. Like, actually on disc and shit. So I dig it out, and I pop it into my computer, and I hit the button. Because I'm an old fuck, and I still actually have optical drives in my PC. I'm told that's not a thing anymore. I went out of my way. It's not,
and I'm jealous. If you want a disc drive, you have to get an add-on.
I went out of my way. I paid double what this case was worth when it was new to get the case that I have. It's, you know, the full-size towers? How big they are? My case is a LAN box. So it is essentially 2 of those. Like, if you turn it on its side and stack another one on top of it, that's the size of my case.
All right.
The whole bottom half of it is for hard drives and your power supply. and then the top completely opens up so that your PC is laid horizontal, so it acts like a workbench test bench. So you can easily swap shit out. Makes life is so much better. And where I'm well, not anymore. I finally got everything working where I want it, but where for a long time I was constantly swapping parts out.
All right.
Made life so much easier to work with. But I paid double for this case just to get it because it still has the 5 1/4 inch optical drive base. So I've still got a DVD burner and a Blu-ray burner. But tangent, put the disc in, and I'm recording all this. And I look up to one monitor where the Fear installer has popped up. It's a kitty.
Sorry, distraction.
Hey, you got to see my dog earlier. But as it pops up,
continue. Yeah.
Duke, AI generated, pops up on my other monitor like, what the fuck is that? Get that shit out of here. And this was the point where I actually started planning and everything went all to shit. Because I don't know if you remember, but that was kind of like the end of my campaign, was that video. And that was when the tides started turning and we overtook. And the joke was ultimately on me because they told me, since you made this shit happen, you've got to be on the episode. So I had to play Duke Nukem Forever as well.
Yeah, I do remember that campaign went from like heavily in Fear's favor to like Duke Nukem got like 12 votes. And the next closest one was like 3. Like it was just like a major shift just because everyone's like, man, your campaign was beautiful.
And I told Dalton what I was going to do before I did it. Like, when the intrusive thought hit, I had just enough time and rational thinking to go, Dalton, are you going to be upset if I start campaigning for Duke? He's like, no, dude, do whatever you want. I'm like, you have no idea what kind of mistake you just made.
You've just unleashed the beast.
But at that point, I think it was like more or less tied, and that was when it started just slowly shifting.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah.
At that point, I actually planned this entire Duke Nukem creepypasta thing that I was just going to keep going and going and going, where the whole premise of it was going to be that my AI Duke had become self-aware and was essentially haunting me and forcing me to do all this shit. And my house turned into a recording studio. I recorded a bunch of shit for this. And the end game of it was going to be me hiding in a closet, and you were going to hear like Duke taunting me in the background, and I was going to be talking Blair Witch crying, snotting style into a camera, and I actually filmed this. And talking about like my wife leaving me because I was taking this shit too serious and all this, that, and the other, and then you were going to see me pull out a gun and it was going to like end with a bang, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then right around the time I was filming that shit, my wife was like, all right, this shit has to stop. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but like, quit it. And I'm like, oh, my joke about getting too into this and my wife leaving me might end up turning into a reality if I don't get my shit together. So the intrusive thoughts finally lost at that point. So I never posted any of the other Duke's Haunting My House videos that I had planned.
I mean, you could definitely do it now just as a joke. Just be like, hey guys, it's the 1-year anniversary of Duke Nukem Forever.
Actually, I think at this point we're at the 2-year anniversary of me starting it.
Has it been 2 years? No, there's no way it's been 2 years.
Because it was almost like a full 6 months after Duke won when they finally got around to playing it in December 23.
No, I don't believe that. Don't tell me that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I did that shit.
My God. It feels like you just did it. You just ruined the episode for me. There's my intrusive thought. Now I want to kill myself because it's so... Where the fuck is time going?
But my most recent intrusive thought that won over and did not pan out any way like I was expecting it to. Adam's Backlog Golf last year.
Mm-hmm.
When I, on a goof, testing the waters on loopholes, I ran through 5 visual novels. I speed ran visual novels to be able to get -1s to my complete video games golf score. For anyone listening who doesn't know the rules for Backlog Golf, you start at 0. Every game you play is a -1. 100% is an extra -1. Buy a game, it's a +1. And you want to end with as low a score as possible at the end of the year.
Over 35 hours, that's another plus one. Over 70, I'm sorry, minus one. 70 hours, that's minus two, I believe.
Yeah. So, just as a troll, my intrusive thought was, I'm going to speedrun 5 visual novels in one night because that's in a Steam library, so that's technically a game. And I'm going to 100% them by getting all the endings. And the fun thing about a visual novel is you can set the text speed to maximum and tell it to skip text whether you read it or not, so it only pauses at the decision points where you have to click a button.
Yeah.
So it turns essentially a book with very minor game mechanics attached into that could take, let's say, 2-3 hours to read from start to finish. Reasonable game time, and if you're getting all the endings, you're looking at like maybe 5 hours if you're reading all the stuff that you didn't read the first time. It turns all of that 5-hour gameplay, quote unquote, into 15 minutes of playing with your dick and hitting a mouse button 12 times. I hear that cat purring in your lap, dude.
Man, I'm just watching my wavelength right now, and I just see her purrs, just like really going berserk. It's hilarious. She's literally right next to the microphone.
It's cool. We're all pet people.
Like, she is still in front of me. You could probably still see the top of her head, and the microphone is right next to her. Ain't that right, Pookie? Ain't that right?
So, I did it. It put me back in the lead because I'd been holding not necessarily the lead, but I'd been holding like the top 2 or 3 for a while.
I know Nate was very close to passing you.
At this point, Nate had passed me whenever I did this little stunt. And Jeremy I think he was actually leading everything up for a couple of months because he had done a bunch of games in a row.
Yeah.
And I pulled that stunt and took the lead. And I held it for months. Didn't do a damn thing, just sat on it. But whenever I pulled that little speedrun 5 visual novel stunt, like halfway through the year, Adam made the mistake of saying, nope, that's legit. You can claim visual novels.
And then you just started doing so many visual novels, and you basically just ran away with the lead.
So I did nothing until December 31st. Well, I played a couple of games and got a -1 here and there. So I just kind of held steady at where I was at until the last day of the year, and I played the rest of the entire Sakura franchise, which not the entire franchise, but the rest of them that I'd bought in a bundle at some point, because I had like 12 of these damn games. I played the rest of them, speedrunning them. It took me 3 hours to go through all these games, get all the endings, so that I wasn't lying when I said I played it start to finish and got every ending, so it's 100%. So each one was worth -2. And I stole the lead from Nate on the last day because I'm an asshole.
Hey, Adam gave you the go-ahead.
Well, and here's the thing, at the end of it, the reason that I just went so hard on it, my thought was this. This was my intrusive thought. Wouldn't it be great if I did something so egregious that even Adam said no and threw my victory out? That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get disqualified, too.
Well, you did something almost like that. Now, Adam basically created the Dane rule.
Secret time? I compiled all the different rulings he made last year into a single document and sent it to him and said, hey, you might want to share this. I compiled all the different things so it's all in one spot. And I do have 2 rule suggestions for you if you're open to it. And he said, hey, dude, this is a community thing. Yeah, I'm not trying to be the arbiter of everything. So, yeah, by all means, if you got a suggestion. I said, I offered a visual novel specific rule that says, yes, they are legit, but honor system, you actually have to read it. Since the gameplay is so minimal, the game is the story, and if you are not actually experiencing the story, then it's not a legitimate playthrough. I said, this will kind of close that loophole so that I'm not tempted to pull the same stunt again. And he said, yeah, that's a really good one. What was your other rule that you wanted to suggest? I said, the golden rule. Don't be like Dane. Obviously, I'm excluded to this.
It's too late. I'm already like that. I thought
I'm the exception that defines the rule.
Exactly. When the rules came up, it was just, I'm just like, I'm expecting that to be like, no visual novels. It's just like, no, the honor system. It's like, all right.
Well, look, you invoke the honor system on, I'm not going to force you to prove this. I'm going to follow it. I'm a loophole enthusiast, but I'm not actually a cheater. I was following the rules to the letter, and if he had said, all right, that's funny, I'll let you keep those first points, but don't speedrun them anymore, you actually have to read it. If he had told me that to begin with, I would not have tried it again.
Yeah.
And I actually told Nate, because at one point he did question whether I'd actually played the stuff. I said, no, I actually played them and fucked up my Steam algorithm. Because now it keeps trying to, get me to buy sleazy anime porn games.
Hey, we noticed that you like these 25 visual novels. Well, how about trying these?
You're clearly into it. You have all of the trophies for all of them. But I told him, I said, who was the joke really on? Because I was playing the, censored version that Steam puts out. I didn't do the 18 plus patch because I'm fast forwarding through it. Even if I did have the 18 plus patch, what am I going to do? See a flash of a nipple on screen as it's up there for 2 frames? As it goes. But I told him, I'm like, I've ruined my Steam algorithms for probably the next year. I sat there and stared at a screen, wasted 3 hours of my life for a joke, and now everybody on my friends list knows that I was playing those games. So who was the joke really on? And he's like, why did you actually play them? If it was just going to be that, why did you actually play them?
I was trying to get banned.
Because I'm a man of my word. I'm not going to say I beat a game that I didn't beat. I'm not going to lie just to claim points and be a dick. I'm going to do the stupid thing because I commit.
Well, technically, when I ended very poorly just because I kept playing the same games over and over again. But could I? I didn't actually read the rules. So, Adam, I'm sure those were great rules, but I didn't read them. But I technically maybe could have had -10 or more because I kept playing and beating Mass Effect over and over again.
And then when Dalton built his new PC and got his VR headset and bought so damn many games that he literally lost count of what his score was, he just changed it to last.
Well, this is why the Steam machine is never going to die, because he keeps adding to his list, and he already has over 2,000 games on his backlog.
Yeah, over 2,000 games in his Steam library, and that doesn't count the fact that he's got, much like me, all the fucking ROMs.
And also, this is just Steam. We're not including Epic and GOG.
Because I've got, I think, over 600 games on my Steam library. And I've got the entire Genesis, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari, Nintendo 64, PlayStation. I've got those full libraries on a hard drive attached to my Raspberry Pi in the living room.
I could go for some Raspberry Pi right now. That sounds delicious.
Yeah, call up the Big Dick Pie Baker.
Ha
Tadpog jokes.
He'll make me a Game Boy Advance while I'm at it.
Have you seen some of the shit that Chris does? Really paid attention to it?
It's incredible what he does. He's very precise in what he's trying to do. I mean, a few years ago when he was oh yeah, I made some custom advances and colors. I was just like, dude, I want one of those advances, and I never took him up on that offer just because I think I wasn't financially sound at the time. He
was actually he's give away a couple of little retro handhelds that he's fucked with for Tadpog trivia back when I was running that.
Yeah.
And he had it might have been a Game Boy that he had modded. It was something. I think it was a Game Boy that he had modded and customized that he was going to give away, but I never could get a good enough set of questions together, and it kind of fell through.
Yeah, no, he's made some great stuff. It's incredible, just some of the people that we're friends with in both Tadpog, and it's just all the retro stuff that they're creating. It's just damn, why can't I be this tech savvy?
I'd just fuck around with it until you figure it out.
I don't think I could. I'm really that inept with computers.
There's a game, and I might try and make you play it for the show one day. It's called Turing Complete, and all it is you're building a computer literally from scratch within the game, from logic gates. You know what I'm talking about when I say logic gates?
No.
So you know how computers run off ones and zeros?
Yes.
All right, welcome
Binary
to Dane's
code.
Tech Talk. So the way that actually works is you have logic gates, and it'll be like this. The way they represent it on a piece of paper is like a little box, and different shapes will mean different things, but there's only like 7 different gates that you're working with. Have 2 lines coming in, 1 line going out. So if it's an AND gate, both of the ones coming in have to be a 1 for a 1 to come out, otherwise it's 0. If it's a NAND, it's the opposite. So it's always a 1 unless both of them coming in are 1s, then it's a 0. OR is returns a 1 if it's 2 1s, or 0 and 1 in either direction. And then NOR is the opposite. So all the NOR means is, it's got an inverter. That's the NOT gate. 1 goes in, 0 comes out, 0 goes in, 1 goes out. And the fun one is the exclusive OR. So if it's 2 zeros, it gives you a 0. 2 1s, it gives you a 0. But if it's a 1 and a 0, it'll give you a 1. Those 7 gates are what you put together to build a CPU. And Turing Complete teaches you how to turn one of those gates into another one, and then slowly build the different gates from the ones you already have, and then you build like an adder that lets you add 2 ones together. And then you build that up into one that lets you add 2 8-digit binary numbers together. And then you build like a multiplier, a subtractor, and all these different things. You slowly build up like the ability to save memory, the ability to do this, that, and the other, and it walks you through step by step by saying, here's a problem, use the things that you've already learned and figure it out. Build a thing that does this. So you build that thing, and then it's like, build a thing that does this using that thing. And when everything's said and done, you have built an entire computer, and it's teaching you now how to program that thing. And then it teaches you how to make your own assembly language for that thing. And it's using like open sourced standards for different computer architectures that for like 8-bit computers.
Everybody got that?
But it's all presented as a puzzle game, dude.
I'm sure I have to look at it and be like, oh, okay, because right now you just talked total bullshit to me. I don't know what the hell you said to me.
Well, all it is solving logic puzzles.
And I'm perfectly fine with solving logic puzzles when it's presented to me and my eyes can read it. But when you're just telling me words and my ears are just like,
all right, you know what a CPU is, right?
Maybe.
The central processing unit in your computer. You know what that is?
Yes.
All right. This game lets you, through logic puzzles, design a CPU. Does that make more sense?
Yes.
All right. You know what your RAM is?
Yes.
You build that too.
All right. What's this called? Logicate?
Turing Complete.
Turing Complete.
The whole premise is like the quote-unquote story of the game. Aliens have come to the planet, and they're having you do this to prove that you are a sentient species so that they won't eat you.
Oh, that's nice.
And like early in the game, it's giving you shit about how you're almost caught up with the cow. The octopus didn't even make it this far. Maybe you are sentient. And once you have built a working computer and programmed it, and I think like the final test is they give you a robot game, and you have to write a program that will algorithmically, using your computer, make the robot navigate 6 mazes that are designed completely differently. So not only do you have to program this thing to do that, you have to program it in such a way that no matter what the maze's layout is, it will solve the maze. Is
it timed? Or do you have time? You're given unlimited time?
Talking about to solve the maze? Or the different puzzles?
Is it like for each puzzle, it's just like, okay, you have like 5 minutes to do this puzzle, or is it just like take as long as you need?
There's only one puzzle type in there that is timed, and the timer is optional. You can turn it off. And all that is it will show you a binary number, and you have to like punch in the decimal number that's equivalent to. So if you're slow at math, it will like let you turn off the timer because it's kind of hard to get a high enough score to pass if you're slow at math.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you don't just automatically know that 10 equals 2, that 11 equals 3, that 100 equals 4, yeah, if you don't just know that off the top of your head, like 1,000 equals 8. It's binary. Powers of 2.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Well, I used to write my PIN number on the back of all my credit cards and debit cards with in base 25, so I could read it. I knew what it meant. So if I ever fucking forgot what my PIN number was, I could look at that. And you're probably thinking, Dane, if you couldn't memorize base 25, how can you not remember your fucking PIN number? But no jackass is going to steal my car, look at that, and be like, this is clearly base 25.
It would be funny if that one person is like, huh, that clever bastard. Well, I can still read this.
But yeah, I had a couple of cards that I hardly ever used, and I could never remember the fucking PIN when I needed it. So I just wrote it on the back of that because I could look at that, go, okay, pull my calculator out on my flip phone, do the quick math. I'm like, okay, it's this.
Yeah, I definitely would be interested in at least looking at it. I mean, I enjoy puzzles, so I'm sure presented to me, I'll be like, oh, okay, it's definitely, I mean, I'm sure it's very complicated, but I'm sure it's not as complicated as my brain is making this out to be.
The one gate that I had the hardest time figuring out was writing the multiplier. Figuring out how to multiply two 8-bit numbers together fried my fucking brain.
Sounds like fun.
I mean, dividing by 2 is easy, because you just take all the numbers and shift them one space to the right, and you've divided it by 2.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, it's binary. 10 equals 2. It's like if you did that with a decimal number, you're dividing by 10.
You keep saying that 10 equals 2, and that still means nothing to me. When I hear binary, I just hear ones and zeros. That's it.
All right. When you count in binary, 0, 1, 10, 11, 100, 101, 110, 111, 1,000.
Okay.
Because 1 and 0 is the only numbers you got.
Correct.
So you go up by 1, you're out of numbers. So now you move the 1 to the tens place and add a 0. So 10 in binary is 2 in how we count.
I'll take your word for it.
That's
why
why
I get it. I get what you're saying. So
that's why in like the old 11 equals 3. And that's the reason why in the old 8-bit like Nintendo games, like you couldn't have a number like in your inventory over 255 because, you know, if you have 8 ones, that's 255. Once you hit 256, you've run out of spaces for numbers because that would be a 1 in the ninth place and 8 zeros after it. But the 8 bits didn't have that. So it rolls back to 0. It's called an overflow. So they just hard locked it to not let you go up 1 once you'd maxed out your inventory on that.
Have you ever considered working for a software company?
Yeah, but I don't have the proof that I can do the shit that I can do.
Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed Dane Tech Talk.
All right, hold on. Let's make it official.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Dane and Jeff's Media Dump. I'm your host, Mr. L. Dane Puzzles Esquire, Mr. Puzzles for short, Dane for shorter. And with me today, he slices, he dices, he stays crunchy even in milk. Yeah, I'm dusting that old chestnut off. Mr. Grumpy Syllables, Jeff. Jeff, how you doing, bud?
Don't forget, he's also a duck.
He's a duck.
But I'm doing well. How you doing, sir?
Not bad. Enjoying talking all this tech shit and making smoke come at your ears.
Man, my brain is fried right now.
Oh, you've been on a PC gaming podcast how many times?
And do you honestly think that I know what I'm doing? I'm just talking out of my ass. I mean, do you remember when we did Descent Free Space for our Steam machine? It took Willie like 5-10 minutes trying to help me figure out, hey, how do I get this program and how do I download it? Or were you a part of when we were trying to get Unreal Tournament working online?
No, I wasn't involved in any of that, but I probably could have helped you out.
Well, I'm just trying to think because I know Dalton was part of it. Mitch, I think Zal is like. We had to go online. We were just had to go into the file of the game. It's like you need to change this and this and this, and it's like okay, yeah, I got this, no problem. And here I am. I'm just like, okay, so the file program is under where? I am completely terrible with computers.
Dude, holler at me. Because you realize, for shits and giggles, I set up my own personal Netflix that I can access from anywhere that runs off my computer.
But I'm not doing anything like this. I don't need all this expert stuff.
I'm saying I figured that shit out. I could figure this one out.
Well, I'm sure you could, but at the same time, here I am. I'm just like, okay, so how do I sync my PS5 controller Bluetooth? Oh, I just got to hold 2 buttons and then just hit add. Hooray, I figured it out. Thank you, Google.
Like, I actually set up a domain, and I'm not going to say what it is because if I put that on the internet, I have learned there will be some asshole that will find it and I will get DDoSed because this does direct straight to my actual house. But me and Dalton, after the Diablo episode on Steam Machine, we're talking about maybe doing multiplayer Diablo 2.
Uh-huh.
I've got it set up so you don't have to put in my IP address for us to play together, because I know you had mentioned, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. So I made a web address that when we play, you'll just punch that in on Diablo 2 instead of, like, I can say a local one that's safe, 192.168.124. That's the local IP address that only works in my house.
Okay.
But whatever, you wouldn't have to put in my IP, you would just put in this web address that I made.
Sorry, there was noises. Like, who is that? It's just like, no, one of my cats is scratching something. No, when it comes time, if you guys do Diablo 2, and if I decide if I'm going to buy the game again or not, because I own it, but I own the discs, and I don't have a disk drive now, which I could easily solve by just buying a external disk drive, or I could just go on Steam or wherever and buy the game there.
Now, you actually still have your discs?
I do. They're in storage somewhere.
All right. So you've got 2 options. Option 1, take your CD key, and you can actually, they have hid it. It's really hard to hunt down, but I can get you the link to find to it. Battle.net has a web page where you can redeem your CD key to get a copy from them of with all the updates for Diablo and Diablo 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I don't think they have Diablo up anymore. Just Diablo 2 because they moved Diablo to GOG, which works better there anyway. But you can get, you can punch in your Steam key there, and then they will give you a link, which they also don't add to your library on the Battle.net launcher. But you can download the installer there, run it, and it will install the latest version. When you open it up, it will update to the latest patch just by clicking the Battle.net login thing. You don't even have to log into it. So that's option 1. Option 2, I can send you that very same installer and my code, because this is what Dalton did, and you can just run it on your computer and have it, and not have to dig out the fucking CD key.
Yeah, because I have no idea what box it's in. I just know it's in a box buried in the back of my storage locker, which has so much crap in front of it. So that option 2 is definitely the better option.
But, if you ever stumble across it again, holler at me and I'll get you the link so you can actually redeem it, because Blizzard is good in as far as they will still honor it, and you can get the latest patch of the original Diablo 2, and it still runs. But they make it as hard as possible to get it.
I mean, that's usually what it is.
It's like a help article linked from within another help article linked in some random forum that you got to go through.
Yeah.
But that's what I ended up doing.
Well, we'll see. Well, when it comes to that point, if I decide to join you guys, I'll let you know.
And from my understanding, like, the upside is we don't all have to be playing at all times. You can still, like, do your own damn thing and then jump in later if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If our levels don't match, I think we can just, like, help you power level up.
I mean, that's what happened when I first, a long time ago, when I first played with my brothers. I mean, they played on their files, and they're like 60, 70 levels higher than me. And I'm just like, okay, I'm the stinky little guy. So at one point, my oldest brother's like, okay, I'm gonna run to the boss. Just follow me. Just go to the arrow. So I did. While my other brother was helping me. It's like if he saw I was having too much difficulty, he would give me lend me a hand, help me with some enemies, try to help me to level up as quickly as I can. While at the same time, my oldest brother's just sitting with the boss, who's the first boss? Azrael?
I can't remember.
Andariel? Andariel?
I suck with the names on the bosses and all this stuff. And I haven't actually beat Diablo 2 myself.
Anyway, so he's just sitting at the first boss. It's hitting him, and it's doing 0 damage to him. So it's just like, all right, I'm gonna, do whatever for how. I think it took me like 5-10 minutes to get to him, and then same thing. I took care of the boss, but they would lend me a hand if I started having a little too much difficulty. It was a good system.
Now,
until my computer crashed. Go ahead.
What is the age range on you and your brothers?
My oldest brother is 5 years older than me. The older one is 3 years older.
All right, so you're the baby.
I'm the baby.
So I'm the oldest of 2. My brother is 3 years younger than me, and my wife is the youngest of 5.
5. Ooh.
Yep. She has 3 sisters, 1 brother.
Yeah, I say that as like a shock. My dad is the second youngest in his family, and out of 5. And my mom is the second oldest of 4.
My mom is the youngest of 8. My dad is the second youngest of... I gotta stop and think for them. I think the second youngest of 6.
Jeez.
I always have to think on my dad's side because I've never met 2 of my uncles on his side. One passed away before I was born, and the other lives in Hawaii. I've met his wife. I've met his son. I've never laid eyes on the man.
Hawaii?
Army.
Oh, okay.
And it was always funny because I'd tell people, I've got an uncle named Sam. He's in the Army. And they were always like, oh, yeah, real funny kid. No, seriously, my uncle's name is Sam, and he's in the Army. Prove it. You got any pictures of him? No, he's an asshole and never comes to visit. He lives in Hawaii.
Sounds fair to me.
So what else you been up to this week, dude?
I'm trying to think. First off, we were supposed to record this last week, but due to some personal reasons that I'll let you get into, we couldn't record, and we missed out on this dropping on your birthday. So, happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. 16 years, 23.
I don't think your math adds up just quite right.
All right. 23 was the first year. So...
Okay, maybe your math adds up correctly.
23 plus 15. There you go. 38.
Plus 1. Because you said 23 plus 16.
23 plus 16 minus 1 because you have to count 23 as the first time I turned 23. This is my 16th time turning 23. Ergo, I'm 38.
That's why I was confused at first. I was like, wait a minute, your math doesn't add up. Then it's like, oh wait, no, that's right. You add the 1.
You're having the same problem that Tyler and Dave did when they were doing IGN's top 100. And
yes, that
they tried to do the recap.
And Dave can't do math.
Tyler and Dave fail at maths.
Yep.
They were like, "Hey, let's do like a recap." And was it like the first 20 or the first 10 that they had done?
No, it was the first from 100 to 90. It's like we're gonna do the top first 10. It's just like you added 1, so that's 11 games, and the entire episode they couldn't figure that out.
They were supposed to do 91 to 100, but they did 90
Correct.
to 100. Like, wait, what? What?
So
it's been a long time. I want to say it was Blake who explained their math error to them.
I will say this episode, if you haven't figured it out, we're talking about George Carlin. You need to add in parentheses, Jeff fails at math.
That'll go in the show notes.
Hell yes. Jeff fails at math, and Dane fries his brain.
Well, that sounds like I'm frying my own brain.
Well, you got to put it in a way where it's just like, and you fried my brain.
Oh. Well, you also got to remember, I do math for fun. Like, you ever played the board game Settlers of Catan?
I've heard of it. I've never played it.
All right. It has rules in the instructions for setting up random boards, because the game is made up of, I think it's 21 hexes, and each one is a different land type that produces a different resource. And you
Hold on. I think I played this once, and the entire time, basically we had the same reaction as you trying to explain this computer game with me. It fried my brain. I had no idea what I was doing.
You probably had someone who was a bad teacher. Like,
Well, I don't talk to this person anymore.
I about guarantee that I'm right then.
Ironically, his name was also Brandon. I don't think he had a big dick, but
Called out.
well, he doesn't listen, so hell with it.
Well,
I'm not going to give him the satisfaction.
I taught the game to my buddy Josh, and if you know the game, you can teach it really easy when you've got it laid out in front of you, and it's just you do this and this, because all it is you roll the dice, whatever number comes up on the dice, any land with that number on it produces a card, and there's only 5 cards to deal with.
All right.
And then you've got a little cheat sheet that tells you which resources you spend to build new villages, new roads, and change a village into a city. It also tells you how many points they're worth. First person to get 10 points wins.
You're telling me this now, and I know for a fact I'm going to forget it in 5 minutes. I mean, I've played the game Dominion probably 5 times, and I always usually get good at it eventually. The problem is my brothers and my cousins always have to re-explain the rules to me every time we start because I forget.
I respect Dominion for inventing the deck building genre. It was like the first time there was a new gaming mechanic in like 20 years in board games.
All right.
I cannot stand Dominion itself. It is a really good proof of concept for this one mechanic, but that mechanic is the only thing it has as a game. I have tons of deck builders. If you could see the shelf behind me, I've got a bunch of deck building games, but they've got so much other shit on top of it. Like, I think I showed it off when we were doing one of the Alien episodes during Spooktober, and it's a deck building game where you can play through the movies of the Alien franchise. But like, there's cards coming down a track face down, and you don't know if it's an alien, if it's a thing that you're looking for that you have to get to complete an objective, if it's something that's going to help you, if it's something that's going to kill you. You have to spend points to flip it over to even scan it, and then once it's face up, now it can fuck with you.
I was actually watching Alien before we started recording. I just finished the movie, and all of a sudden it's like, oh boy, Aliens is starting. Well, I'll watch this until it's time to start. I still haven't watched Aliens to this day, so that's something we'll need to change this year.
Maybe that'll come up in Spooktember.
Though I heard that movie's more action-y than it is horror.
I still say that it counts within the greater horror genre.
Oh, I'm sure it is a horror movie, but the first movie was like straight up horror / sci-fi. Aliens is horror action horror.
Yeah. The first one is slasher movie in space. The second one is an analogy for, I want to say, the Vietnamese War. The third one is a prison drama that got fucked up by studio interference. The fourth one is a fucked up fanfic. And the fifth one, Romulus, the newest one, is... it's kind of like straight back to the horror roots. There's a couple of action-y scenes, but it's more in the body horror.
All right.
Sort of genre with some of the weird shit that goes on in it.
I mean, I'll definitely watch it. But yeah, we'll definitely add Aliens to the list sometime this year. Probably, like you said, for Spooktober. Or Spooktember.
Yeah, we'll have Spooktember.
Or Spookvember.
I do like shitty horror movies. We could probably just stretch this out for 3 fucking months.
I mean, I definitely would love to watch Event Horizon. You want to talk about shitty horror movies.
I say this year for Spooktember, we actually do, like, weekly episodes for the event.
I'm fine with that. If you like horror movies, join us for Spooktember.
I'm sure we'll have a couple people take us up on it. We might even be able to talk Ian into showing up, because you know how he likes his shitty horror movies.
Absolutely. Hold on, I gotta do some research. How many weeks are in September? There's 5 weeks in September, so here's what I'm thinking.
Are there 5 Thursdays?
No. But you could... The first... there's 4 Thursdays, but we record, but there are 5 Mondays.
Well, I'm fine having an overlap into, like, October.
Because what I'm thinking is each of us get 2 picks, and then maybe the last pick is a poll.
That would be a good one. I love how we just plan out the future of the show while we're in the middle of it.
People get to see how the sausage is made.
You ever made sausage?
No, I am ill-equipped. I don't. I've told you my living conditions. I don't even have a proper grill.
Well, I did it in college. I haven't done it since. But, like, the machine that loads the sausage casings, you have to, like, preload it with the casing. So it's like putting an infinite condom onto, like, a 2-inch dick. Rock hard. It's not going anywhere. But
you're not making it sound terrible right now. You're making it sound actually very erotic.
The real fun part was watching Chef trying to very delicately phrase how to properly grasp it in a room that was over for 50% female. It's like, not so firm, you don't want to squeeze it. You be careful with the sausage and don't, because you, as it's coming out the way he shows do it, you're twisting off the sausage links as it comes out, because otherwise you run the risk of popping it. It's a pain in the ass.
I believe it, but at the same time, once it's just like, okay, I figured it out, I've got the perfect system, it's like, homemade sausage.
That's why I'm lazy as shit, and whenever I make sausage at the house, I just use, like, fucking hamburger meat, season it, and fry it up loose. I don't bother casing any of that shit.
I want sausage, I just buy store-bought. Whatever's on sale. Ooh, is there buy one, get one free? Yoink.
Now, I will say a lot of the stores around here have started selling beef chorizo. And for the longest time, my options were pork, which, not kosher, or soy rizo. Imagine chorizo made out of the same shit that they make Texas Pete chili out of. Soy grits.
That sounds terrible.
It is terrible. I tried it once. I threw it away.
Well, now you know that I'm always just going to stick to pork. So, wait, can you not eat pork, or your wife can't?
Oh, we keep kosher.
Ah, okay.
So no pork, no shellfish. I do eat cheeseburgers. I'm not, like, Jewish kosher.
So it's like, I do eat cheeseburgers. I'm not a heathen.
Well, like, in a traditional, like, Jewish kosher kitchen, they actually have, like, separate sides of the kitchen for the meat side and the dairy side. They're not allowed to mix meat and dairy. And it all goes back to this one phrase, don't boil a kid in its mother's milk. And there are differing interpretations on the phrase that it could mean don't eat an animal that is still nursing.
Mm-hmm.
So, let it be a full age before you're slaughtering it. It could be a don't mistreat your animals before you eat them, because the thought of boiling an animal in the milk of its mother is kind of fucked up when you think about it.
Well, yeah.
Sounds like something they'd do in French cuisine.
What? Or with foie gras, which is they force feed a goose until its liver explodes or something like that, or
turns to straight fat.
Yeah.
Like, just they make it so sick and its liver just completely turns to fat. Then they slaughter it. And this one dude figured out that if you do this, this, and this, the geese will overeat on their own without being force-fed and tortured. The process happens naturally, so they are, while still unhealthy, they're not being abused. And the foie gras he was making that way was just as good and was indistinguishable. But then the French government stepped in and said, no, we can taste the difference. We need some more cruelty in this, and made it illegal to call it foie gras if you don't force feed the fucking goose.
The French are weird. I mean, they're also the ones where it's like, yeah, you can eat this little bird, but you need to hide yourself in shame.
I still think that's an elaborate hazing ritual.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I just find it funny. It's like, oh yeah, you get this beautiful, tiny little songbird. We kill it, and
we drown it in wine.
And then you have to eat it. No hands. I believe you can't use your hands. You just eat it from the bowl with a towel over your head.
And, like, whole.
Whole, yeah. Boy, we're going up. We might as well just call this one Oops All Tangents.
It's always oops all tangents. I'll do a sober cut.
Man, the first time when I first saw that, I was just like, oh, the sober cut. Okay. And I just saw like 2:37. I was like, oh, 2 hours, 37 minutes. I wonder how long what was kept and such. And then I realized it was literally it was 2 minutes, 37 seconds. And I was just like, oh, you brilliant bastard.
That was another moment of intrusive thoughts. Because I was halfway through actually editing out our nonsense and getting it down to a reasonable show length and slightly more focused. And then the thought popped in my head, and I said, okay, I'm going to throw away 5 hours of work, and I'm going to do this in 20 minutes and call it a day, because this is so funny to me.
And it was beautiful. And everyone, you have to have listened to it by now. If you haven't, listened to it.
It's 2.5 minutes. You have no excuse. Oh. But yeah, I guess on my end, had my birthday last week. We talked about that. I got a dog.
It's a cute dog.
Yeah, Rocky. They said he's a husky mix. He just looks like a shepherd. But he's got one really pretty blue eye and one just regular dog shit brown one. But because of that one blue eye, he always looks scared shitless. Like every time he looks at you, he can be looking at you hungry. He can be looking at you loving. He can be looking at you playfully. But if you're looking him in the eye, he's like, oh shit. That's the kind of look that blue eye gives him. Mm-hmm. If you're only catching one side of his face, you're like, oh, that's such a happy dog. And he looks at you like he's terrified. Because it's that super light blue. That's the only evidence that there's got to be some husky in there somewhere. Because I've had huskies and they had the exact same eyes. But it's so light. If you're not like right up against him, it looks white. Mm-hmm. So it looks like he's just got the big bug out eyes, like, oh shit!
Kibbles!
But him and my daughter, who's 7.5, they instantly clicked. They're best friends already. She loves that dog. My wife, who was very skeptical when she saw him and thought, oh my god, he's a horse. Because she's always had like the little lap dogs.
Yeah.
She's not really, well, not always, but most of the dogs that she's always had have been lap dogs. She didn't know how to feel about having this big old motherfucker in the house, which we ain't got a really big house, but we got a ton of land for him to run around and play in. So he's just happier than a pig and shit when he gets outside.
Yeah, I've seen the dog. I've seen the pictures. I'm jealous. I definitely want a dog, but where I live in a tiny condo with no land. It's barely big enough for my wife and I and our 3 cats.
Well, I mean, if you're not afraid about the cats eating it, you could always get something like a Chihuahua.
I'm trying to think how that would turn out, and I honestly don't know. Because the oldest cat, she'll definitely try to fight the thing, but at the same time, she will run away. So get the hell away from me.
Well, all those things do is like shiver, piss, and bark, so you're not... Even if the cats are attacking it, it's not going to do anything different.
I'm better off just waiting and getting a shepherd.
In case you can't tell, I fucking hate Chihuahuas. Rats masquerading as dogs.
They're not. I don't even think they're rats. They're some subspecies. Definitely not a dog. Definitely not a rat.
Fucking rodent. That is not a canine. Fucking hate a Chihuahua. Except the Taco Bell Chihuahua. He was funny.
He was fine. I liked it when he was crushed by Godzilla.
I don't remember that one.
It's the one where he's like, here, lizard.
Oh,
and he has like the trap box where you pull the stick and it traps whatever's inside the box. Well, you just see the Chihuahua realizes that he's trying to hunt Godzilla. He's just like, uh-oh. I think I need a bigger box. And then it cuts to the Taco Bell logo, and you hear this very grotesque sounding crunch. It's just like, oh, well, I guess the Chihuahua is dead.
Dude, you just unlocked a fucking memory in my brain. I completely forgot that. And you're quoting lines from it, and that shit's coming back to me, son of a bitch.
Well, you have to. We grew up with do you remember that Godzilla movie?
Yeah, I've got it on my personal
marketing
Netflix.
The marketing for it. The marketing was everywhere.
Now, did you see the backlash after that first American-made Godzilla in Japan?
No.
That version of Godzilla actually made an appearance in a official Toho Godzilla movie.
All right.
In that one, it was just called Zilla, and like got its shit wrecked immediately.
I mean, that sounds about right. Even I actually think that might be. It's the coolest design. I love that Godzilla, even though that is a terrible movie. But I love that movie. But let's not forget, that's a lot of fish.
Jean Reno was the best part of that film. The French guy.
I know. I'm just trying to think of who else was in it. It's just like everyone else. Is
Matthew Broderick,
Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, Kevin Dunn, Nancy Cartwright. So it was a Simpsons reunion.
I didn't think about that. Look, I was just old enough to realize that the movie I was watching was not good when that came out, because I'm like just shy of a year older. We were born in the same year, but opposite ends of it. Yep. I was just old enough to where I'm like, I like Godzilla, and I want to like this, but I don't think this is a good movie.
I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like I'm liking this, but something seems off. Sorry, I just heard knocking. It's just like, what the fuck? But it's the same with like Armageddon. It's just like, that's a terrible movie, but I like it.
I think Armageddon's an amazing movie.
That's something we have to talk about, because all the stuff that Michael Bay got away with, being able to film at NASA.
Well, the fun thing is, in a very roundabout way, Armageddon actually ties into today's subject of George Carlin.
Talk about a segue, an unintentional segue. I'm trying to figure out how.
All right, so Ben Affleck was in that movie with Bruce Willis.
Correct.
All right, so fast forward to Kevin Smith making Jersey Girl. So, I don't know how much of the behind-the-scenes stuff for Jersey Girl but Ben Affleck's character in that movie, which his dad is played by George Carlin, that's how it all ties in. But the way that this links back to Armageddon, his character was like a music producer or a manager or some shit like that. I can't remember the exact.
In Jersey Girl, he was a musician publicist.
All right. So, near the end of the movie, when he has his sit down with Will Smith, and he had badmouthed Will Smith at the beginning of it, the fucking Fresh Prince, and got fired. And then at the end of the movie, here's the Fresh Prince. Will Smith makes a cameo, and they have this talk about how much he loves his kid, and that makes him realize, I don't want to be here. I need to go be with my daughter, and he drops his chance to get back into the music industry to go be with his daughter at this recital thing.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be Bruce Willis.
No.
Yes. Did you know that Bruce Willis was a musician at one point? He released music under the name Bruno.
I'm trying to think if I've heard of this, and I don't think I have. What kind of music?
Fuck, what genre was it? I can't remember what genre it was in.
The Return of Bruno.
R&B and soul.
That's incredible.
So, Ben Affleck was supposed to have been talking shit about Bruce Willis, and that's what got him fired. And then Bruce was supposed to do a cameo at the end of the movie and have the heartwarming conversation that convinces him to drop everything and go back, instead of being Will Smith. And Kevin Smith had talked to Ben Affleck real life and said, are you sure you can get... He's like, yeah, we did Armageddon together, and we were crying, and I was like, Harry! Yeah, we're tight, I can totally get him. Ben Affleck could not get Bruce Willis to do the movie.
That sounds about right.
So, I don't know how they landed on Will Smith, but that was who they ended up talking into doing a cameo for it.
I will say, I'm just looking up this, The Return of Bruno, this, one of his albums, apparently. It was released January 20th, 1987. You're off by 10 days. Missed it by that much.
I'm fine with that.
Why? You don't want to be associated with Bruno?
We don't talk about Bruno.
But Jersey Girl and George Carlin.
Well, we did have one final segment to go ahead and knock out.
Yes,
Haha, Dalton found an error.
Enlighten us.
So, this one wasn't from Dalton. So, according to Nate, our last episode, our top 3 lists for best Mario games is invalid because neither of us listed a Mario game from like the last 2 decades. So I don't think that counts as an error. I think that Nate's real complaint should be lodged against Nintendo and not with Media Dump.
No, I think I guess you can kind of put some blame on me because I never played Galaxy and never got the chance.
I don't own a Switch and I didn't like Mario Sunshine. So once he stopped being a plumber and started being a tropical resort janitor, I stopped giving a shit about Mario. I said it.
I mean, was he really a plumber in Galaxy?
Well, I don't think he's been a plumber for a long time. Once he started, whatever the fuck he's doing with those mushrooms.
I'm trying to think. Would he been a plumber in 64? I mean, yes, he's traveling pipes and whatnot, but I don't know. He's not doing a lot of.
Yeah, but he is
plumbing.
very clearly doing janitorial work through all of Super Mario Sunshine.
This is true.
And I don't know what it is about the GameCube generation and them deciding that all the Mario characters needed backpacks for their games. Because it launched with Luigi's Mansion, he had a backpack to suck up ghosts. And then when Mario Sunshine finally came out, it was a water hose to clean up graffiti.
You're not wrong, but I still enjoy Sunshine.
I didn't like it. Did not like it at all.
But either way, it was a good list. Nate is wrong. I mean, he's not wrong, but he's wrong.
He's wrong to at us. He should be adding Nintendo.
Correct.
If they had given me a good reason to buy a fucking Switch, maybe I would have played Odyssey.
But yeah. No, I'm shocked I haven't played Odyssey, but at the same time, I hardly play my Switch.
Technically, there is part of a Switch within my house. My nephew demolished his Switch, so his mom, my sister-in-law, bought him a new one, and then he broke that one too. And when he broke the second one, she hit me up and she's like, I cannot believe he has broke both of his Switches. Is there anything you can do? And I said, depends on what he's done, what happened. She's like, he broke the screen. I said, do you still have the old one that he broke the first time? She said, yeah. Did he break the screen on that one? She's like, it doesn't turn on. So I don't know what he did to it. So I said, bring me the stuff. I'll see what I can do. Because my brother's got the little Y-shaped screwdriver that you have to use to get into all the Nintendo shit. My brother has one of those. So I was like, hey, let me borrow your screwdriver. I learned how to take apart the Switch, crack the 2 things open. Used the first broken one as a donor for the new screen and touchpad, or touchscreen thing, and transplanted it over to the old one, put it all together, and it booted up. And when I, tried to give the stuff back to her, she's like, hey, if you think you can ever get that other one working, or if you can buy spare parts, you can fix it up and keep it if you want to. And it's been sitting broken over there on my game shelf ever since. So, like, if I wanted to, I could buy a new screen for it and some Joy-Cons, because I think the only thing that was actually wrong with the old one was, like, everything had got knocked loose on the inside and nothing was connected anymore.
Well, he must have dropped it.
Repeatedly. I love the kid. He's a little bit clumsy.
Did anyone ever teach that kid, when you're playing handheld games, you need to be sitting down. You're not supposed to be running around.
Well, he's a big boy. Like, he was, the kid that's really tall for his age. When I say big boy, I'm not saying, like, fat. I'm talking like he's tall. Like, his dad is like, I want to say he's like 6'4". He's taller than me. And this boy was, at any given age, like if you were to compare him to my daughter, when they would have been the same age, which he's, I think he was 2 when she was born. He was like a full foot taller at any given age than my daughter is. Like, he's like 10 or 11 now, and he's almost as tall as me. A big boy.
Well done.
So, it's got a long way to fall, for a, middle schooler with butterfingers.
That's why he needs to be sitting.
I told my sister-in-law, I'm like, it's working now. Make him play it in docked mode. But yeah, so because of that, technically there is a broken Switch in my house, but it's not mine. I'm pretty much letting it sit there as spare parts in case he ever breaks it again, and she calls me like, hey, it's broke again, and I'll see if there's a part that I can swap that's still left in that thing for him.
I can't imagine what's going to happen if she buys him a Switch 2.
Well, there hasn't been any problems. I fixed that second one about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I think he's good. I think he finally learned his lesson the second time around. Oh. So, George Carlin.
Mr. Conductor.
Rufus.
Damn, I just watched this movie. What was what was his name in Jersey Girl?
Fuck, what was it?
I just watched the fucking movie.
Cause I think, wouldn't Ben Affleck's character's name Ollie?
Yes.
Or am I thinking of a different thing? All right.
Wait. Bart,
yeah. Street sweeper. That was his only, major role that he ever played as far as movies go. Wasn't his only appearance in a movie, but that was, the only, major role he ever played, at least to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at everything else. It's always just, side character stuff.
Because he did a bunch of different cameos in Kevin Smith films.
Yes. He was the voice of one of the cars in Cars. I think Fillmore. I think that he was the minibus.
Great. Now I'm gonna actually have to watch Cars. Fuck.
No,
my daughter took a spell where she loved the Cars movies.
No, you don't. You just have to remember. He's like, there's a lot of love in this room right now.
All I can remember about the first Cars movie was, wow, this really feels like they just ripped off Doc Hollywood.
I've never seen Doc Hollywood.
Have you seen Cars?
Well, yes.
Then you've seen Doc Hollywood.
I mean, Cars 3 is just basically a ripoff of Days of Thunder.
But, yeah, the entire plot of Big Shot rolls through town, fucks shit up, has to stay and make things better. Michael J. Fox did the exact same plot beats, not beat for beat, in Doc Hollywood.
So you're saying Michael J. Fox did it better than Owen Wilson?
I will say that every day of the week, because Doc Hollywood had a titty shot in it.
Oh, wow.
Well, watching that when I was a kid, that was impressive.
You're watching Doc Hollywood, and I'm watching Revenge of the Nerds.
I remember when I was a kid digging through my dad's tapes and finding his copy of Porky's.
I've never seen Porky's.
I still have no idea what actually happens in that movie. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, and I'm sure that you can imagine which bits and pieces I was watching.
Well, it's like the same thing with Body Heat, with William Hurt and Kathleen Turner. It's just like, I'm familiar with the scene where she gets naked. What's the rest of the movie about? I don't know.
And this is back in the days of VHS, so the more you watch a certain spot, the more that it gets staticky and worn out. So you'll be watching and everything's nice and crystal clear, at least as crystal clear as you can get on a CRT. And then the boobs come out and all of a sudden everything's staticky and worn out. What the hell's happened to my tape?
Why is the first tape of Titanic in great condition, but then the beginning of the second movie is all staticky?
The spring still works on the little flap on top of this one.
The joys of trying to find boobies in the 90s when you don't have the Playboy channel.
Back before the internet.
Exactly. Or the internet was in its very early infant stage.
The days of, dial-up internet where you're watching the image load line at a time super slow going down the page. And you're like, why they always have to put, someone with big hair and put their head at the top of the picture as it slowly loads down and down. Okay, we got eyebrows. And, you're raw and chafed by the time it finally gets down to cleavage.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like, yes, we're about to see nipple. Yes, yeah. Who's on the internet? No! and there it goes. It just lost the upload because someone picked up the phone. It's like, damn it. 30 minutes of wait for nothing. But George Carlin.
Oh. So I know I have a lot more history with George Carlin than you do.
Yes, you do. I mostly know you're familiar with George Carlin, the stand-up comedian. I'm more familiar of George Carlin as Mr. Conductor.
Which I did remember seeing George Carlin as Mr. Conductor, but I didn't watch Shining Time Station that often.
I watched it whenever chance it was on.
And It is very weird to me, because didn't he take over after Ringo Starr? Wasn't Ringo Starr
Yes.
there like when it first started up?
Ringo did the first season in the UK, and then when they brought it over to the US, that's when it's just like George Carlin did it. He did it for the American audience. Even though I remember watching Shining Time Station, and there were episodes where it's like, oh, it's Ringo. So I saw both versions.
But arguably the most influential man in comedy. It's his fault that the FCC exists. Because of the 7 words you can't say. Have you ever heard of this bit? It's a legendary bit.
Oh, of course, I've heard of this bit, absolutely.
So, that bit went out over the radio, and people raised hell. And it actually got to the point where he was told one time, if you go out on stage and perform the 7 words you can't say, we will arrest you. And having recently watched the George Carlin stand-up, what do you think he said to them?
The 7 words.
Go fuck yourself, went out there, did the bit, and got arrested. Now, I don't think he was held for, a full 24 hours before he got out, but the FCC exists because George Carlin was pushing people's buttons with that shit. They established it over the 7 words bit to codify these things into actual laws for anything that was broadcast, radio and television.
Which now the FCC is starting to lay up on, and a lot of these words now you can say on television.
Yeah, you can say shit now. I still remember the day that South Park got to say shit on television.
I remember the first time I heard a TV show said fuck. I was like, wait, what?
I think now,
Tits, that's not really a bad word. That's just...
Well, the whole premise of the words is these are words that are always bad words. And he actually went on to expand it to include fart, turd, and twat. And then he argued, well, should cocksucker really be on there? Because that's a derivative. Because cocksucker, very clearly it means what it means. But cock, that could be a rooster. So cock doesn't belong on the list because double meanings, there are situations where it's okay.
Yeah. I will say I'm looking up some background on that skit. Apparently, I'm not sure if he said it first, but it's saying that comedian Lenny Bruce in 1966 had been arrested for saying 9 words, and it's the 7 words: cocksucker, cunt. Yes, I'm gonna say them: fuck, motherfucker, piss, shit, tits, ass, and balls. So balls in 1966, it's like, oh, that's a bad word. It's like, well, how do you know I'm not talking about a basketball? Or maybe I'm talking about in, 66, that's 59, or 50, I can't add. Yeah, 59 years. Maybe I'm talking about some asshole podcasters' grand gonads.
So, George Carlin's first recording of the 7 words you can't say was in 1972.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Yeah. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree that there's no more influential comedian than George Carlin.
And when you go through his stuff, I've watched all of his stand-ups multiple times. It really feels like the longer we go on, some of his social commentaries become more and more pertinent. Because he was always, the funny thing about George Carlin, someone who is very left-wing can listen to his stand-up and will think, wow, he had a very great and liberal mind. Someone who's very right-wing will think the exact same thing. He was a very conservative guy, and he was tired of the liberal bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's really hilarious hearing both sides of the fence talk about George Carlin in reverent tones like he was on their side.
And in reality, he aided both sides.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes from him: he loved and cherished individuals as he met them, but he loathed and despised the groups and affiliations that they identified with. He's like, an individual is intelligent, they are loving, they are caring, I cherish them. A person is amazing. A group of people are stupid. Because they start getting under a common banner, and whenever you have a common banner, it's always a bad idea.
That sounds very close to what Tommy Lee Jones says in Men in Black. No, one person is smart. People are stupid damn it. Go ahead and talk. I'm going to look up this quote.
Dumb, panicky animals or something like that.
Exactly, yes.
It hasn't been that long since I watched Men in Black. But the reason I picked Carlin, when I was a kid, I don't know if I've ever told you about this or not, I actually wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
All right.
And Carlin was the reason, because I just loved his stuff. And he really influenced the way that I told jokes. That's part of the reason that I fly off with, like, every now and then you'll hear me drop these big $10 words right next to the 4-letter ones. Because that's the way George Carlin taught. He was obsessed with language and the stupid shit that we do. And the funniest thing to me, I have recited entire George Carlin bits at, like, church fun shows. So that you'll have this, little old lady goes up and reads the poems that she wrote. Usually what I did during the fun shows, I had the Amazing Dane routine, where I did this rip-off magic routine from The Amazing Jonathan.
All right.
You ever seen him?
Probably not.
All right. He was a magician who would... The Amazing Jonathan was a magician who would, like, do really shitty magic tricks and fuck them up. And then he'd, like, do a real magic trick, make it work, but the whole time he was cracking really off-color jokes.
Why do I have a feeling all of a sudden, like, some of these... Was he ever... Like, he was filmed while this was happening, right? Was he ever filmed?
He did stand-up specials for it.
Because I'm trying to think, I've started seeing this stuff on, like, Facebook Reels of what you're saying, just like this horrible comedian, like, or a magician doing these horrible magic tricks, but then eventually he does it correctly while at the same time telling these jokes. Like, I think he's all of a sudden just started showing up on my Reels.
Well, the one of his that I stole, and I'm tangenting, but it's all stand-up comedy, so I'll pretend it's relevant. Where he gets the guests from the audience to come up, and they give him $1, and he rips it in half. He's like, "Don't worry, no, it looks ripped. It's just an illusion. Unless I can't fix it, then it becomes a reality." And then he pulls out the mystical scarf of Arabia. Oh, Arabia, a winter wonderland, they call it. Might have been India. I can't remember exactly what his was, but I've changed it around so many times whenever I did it. But he has them hold it up in front of the microphone while he magically refixes it, and you start hearing him, like, pulling tape. And wraps it up in this big wad of tape, and then he hands it. Not only is it fixed, it's now in this nice little carrying case. Go on, get that out of here. I don't rub your failures in your face. But I would do that sort of magic routine, and then people got used to, Dane's going to go up there and do something funny. So instead of bothering with the fucking prop comedy of doing this shitty magic act, which, surprisingly enough, it's harder to do a magic trick wrong sometimes than it is to do it right. And I'm not the best at sleight of hand to begin with. So I just started doing stand-up routines. And I would throw some of my stuff in there. I would, these are all really uptight church people. I know that they're not watching George Carlin, even though at this point he's been dead for 10 years. Because none of them knew who the Amazing Jonathan was. This was all brand new. They'd never seen anything like this before. I did Ben Bailey bits, the cash cab guy.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. He's got some really surreal stand-up.
I'm very behind on my stand-up comedy. I mean, I know at one point, like a few years ago, it's just like, okay, I'm going to go on Pandora, and I'm just going to type in, I just typed in, like, Bill Engvall. And it came up Bill Engvall Radio. It's like, okay, I'm just going to listen to this, and that's when I started listening to, obviously, Blue Collar Group. George Carlin was thrown in there on occasion. Tim Allen, Bob Saget.
The Aristocrats.
But no, it's just like all of a sudden, it's just like, okay, I'm definitely missing out. Because before this, all I've ever really watched was obviously Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah, and he's good.
Quite possibly one of my favorites. Stand-up skits ever. Robin Williams talking about golf.
You mean like croquet? Oh, fuck croquet! You put shit in the way.
Oh, they only do this one time. Fuck no! 18 fucking times.
And every time you miss the ball, you feel like you're having a stroke and you're going to die. We'll call it a stroke.
Oh, fuck. Oh, this is brilliant. And at the end, we'll put a little flat piece with a flag to give you fucking hope. But then I'll put a pool and a sand trap to fuck with your ball again.
Oh,
I love that skit so much. I was in tears the first time I heard it.
yeah. That was back when I was watching shit on HBO whenever these stand-ups were going live. And it was like a big deal on their premiere days. So I caught, I think that was Robin Williams live on Broadway.
Yes.
So I caught that one live. The George Carlin stand-up that I mentioned to you, that I think you found a link on YouTube and watched.
Yes, I watched on YouTube. It was a remastered HD version.
So I watched that one live. The one before it was the one that, because I'd seen old George Carlin stand-ups whenever it was a little bit more goofy. One of his older bits was A Place for Your Stuff, where the whole premise of it was all your house is a place for your stuff. You get too much stuff, well, now you got to get a bigger house because you need more room for your stuff. So now you got all this room, so you go out and get more stuff. And it's just one of those things of like he's pointing out just how ridiculously materialistic and consumer-driven everything is, and how people get so obsessed with their shit, and then starts dragging it out to these illogical extremes about, well, you're going on vacation to this place, you need a smaller subset of your stuff. So you go over and then you're on vacation, and your friend's like, hey, well, why don't you come over to this side of the island and stay at our place and we'll have a picnic. Okay, shit. All right, so now you're paring down because you're going to need some of your stuff, but not all of the stuff that you brought. So you're getting a smaller subset of that subset of your stuff, just the essentials. Change of clothes, vibrator plays, will come all you faithful. Toothpick, pocket comb. Get out there, you do this. Oh shit, let's go down to the beach and we'll camp. We'll camp tonight instead. Oh shit, now I got to pare it down again. And now you've got shit all over the country. Supply chains are running thin. But I grew up with the goofier while still profane Carlin. And when You're All Diseased came out, I didn't catch that one live. I don't even know if they did it live. I don't know. We didn't have a legal satellite at the time. But I caught that when it was still current. Like it had just come out. And I fell in love with it. And he has a joke in that stand-up which changed my religion. Wild to think about, huh?
What was the joke?
Religion is the biggest bullshit story in the history of man, because religions have convinced everyone that there's an invisible man who lives in the sky. And this invisible man has a list of 10 things that he doesn't want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he will send you to a place of fire and torment and torture for all eternity, where you will burn and you will suffer until the end of time. But he loves you. He loves you, and he needs money. Built the whole universe, can't handle money. I was an irreverent youth. I grew up, I thought I was Southern Baptist, and if you've ever been to a Southern Baptist church, they're really big on hellfire and brimstone.
Yeah.
The preacher's up there, they're screaming, they're sweating bullets. You can almost feel the flames licking up from the pulpit. And while George Carlin was raised Catholic, and he talks, it might have been in the one that I sent you, it could have been the other one. He tried really hard to believe in God, but he ended up becoming an atheist. And then later he said that he he worshipped the sun and prayed to Joe Pesci. And he said that he got about the same success rate praying to Joe Pesci that he did to God, and it was about 50-50.
No, I'm trying to... I did watch that one skit you told me about... What the hell was it? Hold on. I'm going to look it up.
I think the one that I sent you was about what we really market is the dispensation of bullshit.
Oh, Complaints and Grievances. That's the one you wanted me to watch.
Yeah, the stand-up we watched was Complaints and Grievances, and I did send you a clip out of You're All Diseased. But
I remember I watched that skit, but the problem is that was the first time I ever watched it. That I can't recite to you any of the jokes that he said, but I do specifically remember there are quite a few key points that I'm just like, no, it's true. You're definitely right.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit where he was like that. I forget which one it's in, but in one of his stand-ups, he goes off on this long rant about how he feels like we should either have no rights at all or the right to do anything the fuck we want. Because if the government can do shit to encroach on our rights and take our rights, they were never rights, they're privileges.
Correct.
So either call it what it is or just free reign. He's like, and he was on the side of we should all have the right to do whatever the fuck we want. He's like, that means I can come up here and I can say and do whatever the fuck I feel like. And that's my right. And if you don't like it, that means you can fucking kill me for it. That's your right.
It must have been great just being someone that just did not give a damn. And he had the mentality, it seemed like he had the mentality of, oh, I can't do this? Well, now I'm going to do this because you told me I can't.
He was one of the people who really saw the world for what it was and was very eloquent in calling it out for, the shit that he saw. And doing it in a way that makes everybody laugh at it. But yeah, he did have cases where, he called shit the way he saw it, and the jokes didn't land. One joke I'd never actually heard in the stand-up because they cut it whenever, they released the routine. He had a routine where he talked about abortion, and the audience was with him, and they were laughing the whole time. But his punchline for the routine was, so what is it? And he landed on it. It's like, it's murder, but it's justifiable, and the audience was dead. And the only reason I even found out about that joke existing was I read his autobiography.
Yeah. And
he's like, the audience didn't like that. They had been with him all the way up until that point because he had been, it looked like he was playing both sides. And then when he actually ended on it, it's one of those cases of he called it murder. So a conservative's going to be like, yes. And then he's like, but it's justifiable. And you would think the liberal would be yes, because he's pro-abortion, but he's still calling it murder. And the entire audience just did not know how to respond to him. And he lost the audience. And just, you don't hear many people who will go to an extreme and alienate everyone and then keep going with their fucking bits, and he gets the audience back and they're laughing again.
Well, that's sign of true talent when you think, okay, I've lost the audience. Let's take a moment, find out where I am, get them back. And I'm sure he got them back immediately on the next joke.
And keeping it within that same topic, I would argue that Dave Chappelle is, while not as good at it, he's really good at kind of calling shit too. I don't know if you've watched much of his recent stuff, have you?
He's been showing up on my YouTubes as well.
I know he's been putting a bunch of stand-ups to Netflix. That's kind of the new place for stand-ups now, apparently.
Yeah, I've been noticing that.
But right before the whole Supreme Court repealing Roe v. Wade, not a political podcast, he had a bit on abortion that he didn't lose the audience with. But he did make some people think because he went on about, he supported a woman's right to choose, and he's like, that's a given, I'm not going to argue it. You should have the right to choose. And he's like, but if you have the right to choose, I should have the right to abandon the little fucker. And you hear the audience kind of turn, it's like, hey, I said you can have yours. But if you think I'm wrong for saying that, maybe we're not right on the other one. And then right after that, because I think he saw the way that everything was going with the fucking political climate, and he saw that shit coming with Roe v. Wade getting repealed.
Yeah.
But two comedians who could effectively joke about abortion.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here listening just because, you have all the experience watching Carlin. So this is basically this is a learning experience for me.
Watching George Carlin made me realize that you can actually joke about anything if you know how to say it. What's one of the classic things people say you can't joke about?
There's too many things, but enlighten me.
Well, one of the classic ones is and he addressed it. It's like, you can't joke about rape.
No.
He said, bullshit. Did you ever think about raping a clown? What if someone broke into a house and raped an 80-year-old woman? What do you say to somebody like that? What do they say about themselves? You should have seen what she was wearing. She was asking for it. An 80-year-old woman. And his whole point being, you just take something and make it so extreme that it is now completely illogical and no longer a real scenario.
I could see that. It makes sense.
And using that same logic, whenever I was my late high school, early college edgelord self, one of my best friends in college was a black dude who the very first conversation we ever had opened with me dropping the N-word. And we became instant friends. Now, the people listening to this can't see me. You know I'm whiter than sliced bread. How do you think I got away with that?
I don't know. I have no idea, especially when you're also south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah. Well, when I walked up to it was like the first day of classes, and I didn't know where all my friends were yet, because I think it was like the second semester. We hadn't all figured out our schedules yet, and I wasn't, at the time, like, gas was almost $6 a gallon, so I wasn't going the fuck home for this big chunk of time that I had to kill, so I was just hanging out and trying to find somebody I knew to hang out with, or I was going to sit down and read a book in a corner. And I saw my buddy Ryan in the Commons area, and I'm like, hey, somebody I know, I'll go over there and sit down. And he was sitting with a bunch of guys that he knew, but I didn't know any of these dudes. So I sat down, and I'm picking up some names as we're going along. There's a chick over in the corner named Erica. There's one girl, never caught her name, and there were these two dudes named Shannon and Black Shannon. I did not give out any of these names. Now, contextually, I'm sure you can imagine exactly who looked like what.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're talking, and Shannon did this, and then Black Shannon did that. And the girl whose name I never caught, who definitely had that, liberal arts vibe to her.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Just goes, why do y'all keep calling him Black Shannon? First time I've met the dude. I look at her and I say, because in Shannon is offensive. And I said the word. And everybody immediately, you could hear the record screech and the crickets chirp. And I'm like, did I read the room wrong? And then Black Shannon busts out laughing. He's like, that's the funniest damn thing I ever heard. And we were instant friends, because I didn't call him that. I said, calling him that's offensive. No one would think that. I took her ridiculous thing because they thought it was funny to have, Shannon, who was a white guy, just that be default.
Yeah.
And call the other one Black Shannon. But yeah, me and him were, we hung out all the time and played ping pong between classes. Cool dude. I think he does rap now. He still has his day job, but...
Well, yeah. But, humor can bring people together. It just obviously it depends on the person.
Now, granted, I have matured a lot since I was in, college. I wouldn't break the ice with somebody
have you
that's
really?
Well, dick jokes are still funny, but I wouldn't make that my first impression on somebody anymore. And I have removed certain words from my vocabulary.
Yeah, I'm just I'm glad you're teaching me all this, and just just the kind of man he was, and how his humor influenced you and such, and some of it that you still use to this day. But this is just a subject that's out of my hands, just because sadly I never watched him. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he just wasn't available for me to watch, because it's like I never had the proper channels to watch him. Watch real George Carlin. I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm just watching Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Oh, look, there he is. What a dashing-looking gentleman this guy seems to be.
The biggest reason I picked this was I just wanted you, because I got the feeling that you hadn't really watched much Carlin, or if you had, it'd been a long time. I just wanted you to watch one of these, because I still love his style of humor. And unlike most comedians who would talk about topical things, I think Carlin's aged best, because so much of his stuff is still applicable.
Well, not only do I want to watch more of his stand-ups, you maybe want to read his autobiographies.
Now, I will tell you one thing about, because he had 4 books. Brain Droppings, Napalm and Silly Putty, and When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops are basically compilations of his stand-up material.
Mm-hmm.
And then his autobiography, Last Words, was actually written after he died. There was a guy that he was working with who had been they would have long conversations where George would record him telling him stories about his life growing up and this, that, and the other. And the dude was going to be the ghostwriter to kind of help, get everything in a coherent timeline and put it together. But before they got it finished, George died. So,
yeah, like a full year after he died. Almost a year and a half.
So he still finished the project. He took all of the conversations and everything that they'd put together, and he still released the book. And to me, the saddest part about the book is the last chapter ends with what George wanted to do in the future. So you get an idea for what the thing he really wanted to do was that he never got to do. He had an idea for a one-man Broadway show that was going to be based on his life that he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. That never happened. And reading through it and like finding out some of the shit that happened in his life, it really kind of makes you understand why he was the way he was. Because when he was a baby, his father inadvertently caused the death of his grandfather. I can't remember. Actually, I can't remember if it was when he was a baby or if when his mom was still pregnant, to be honest. But his parents weren't together at the time. His mom was living with her parents, and they got wind that his dad was coming over. His grandfather got George Carlin's mom and the kids out of the house, so they weren't there when the dad showed up, and it ended up causing a heart attack in his grandfather. You know, the confrontation, I don't know if there was a physical fight or anything, or if it was just the stress of the situation, but it ended up leading to his grandfather dying. He grew up in Catholic school, and being a class clown in Catholic school is a good way to get your ass beat every day. He went in the Air Force. I actually looked at a timeline for his time in the Air Force. Every time he would get promoted, he would immediately get demoted for essentially not insubordination, not doing anything he was supposed to be doing. And they ended up parting ways, I think is how he phrased it.
Received a general discharge in July 1957. He was court-martialed 3 times and received many non-judicial punishments and reprimands.
Yep, in JP.
Yeah, I definitely want to read his book. His autobiography.
It's a good one. I think they did an audiobook and they got someone who sounds kind of like him to read it.
Oh, seriously. Now ever since I started looking up about George Carlin, the first thing I did when I went to a Yahoo News the first thing was 15 George Carlin quotes that still hit home today. Damn it! My internet is listening to me. Let's see. Narrated by Tony Hendra, so I guess the guy who wrote the book, and Patrick Carlin.
Oh, we got his brother. That explains how they got somebody. I'd heard clips from it, and I kept thinking, wow, they got someone who actually kind of sounds like George Carlin. Yeah, his brother was Patrick, unless he had a son that he named after him. I think he only had a daughter.
His older brother, Patrick. So I'm assuming it's him because under children, I'm only seeing his daughter Kelly.
Yeah, I was thinking there was only a daughter. And another book about him that I haven't actually made it all the way through just because it was kind of sad is the George Carlin letters by Sally Wade, and that was his wife when he passed away. Now, the interesting thing to me about that was, when he met her, I think she was out with her dog and she was having trouble with the dog, and he was always a dog person. He stopped there and he, kind of helped her get things straightened out with the dog for a second, and then made a joke about how him and the dog went way back. They were old friends, and just kind of that weird kind of banter that you have with somebody that you're kind of attracted to and you're just wanting to talk to more. And like they had a date kind of on the spot from that, but it hadn't been that long for him since his previous wife had passed away. And he said, well, this has been a lovely evening. He got her phone number. He's like, I'll call you in a year. Because he had decided, that for his emotional well-being and, respect for his children, even though he was kind of up there in years, he wasn't going to actually be involved with anybody for at least a year after his wife's death. And then, a year after that, he called her up and she actually answered the phone and they instantly hit it off, got married. And apparently, that cynical old bastard was a hopeless romantic, because the entire point of the George Carlin letters is it's kind of chronicling all these different random-ass love notes that he was constantly leaving stashed all around the house for her to stumble upon as she went about her day. And he did it so often and with such frequency that she was still finding them after he passed away. And it would be notes like, I bet you won't even find this one. I love you. And I made it about halfway through that book, and I'm like, oh, this is so fucking sad. I can't deal with this. And I put it down.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to read his book.
Last Words is really good. If you want to read one that's like a chronicle of his stand-up material, When Would Jesus Bring the Pork Chops is probably the strongest of the three.
But no, you're right to assume that I had very little knowledge and experience watching Carlin, and I definitely want to change that. I've been meaning to do it for years now, because everyone you talk to, it's just like, hey, who's your favorite stand-up comedian? And a lot of people will say George Carlin, and it's just like, I can get it, I understand it. I blame myself because YouTube is so readily accessible. There's so many different ways you can listen to his stand-up, so I can only blame myself on why I haven't done so yet.
And I think it would actually be worthwhile to do stand-ups on a semi-regular basis here, because there's a bunch of really interesting guys out there for one reason or another. Like, if you want to get to controversial people, Ari Shaffir. Are you familiar with him?
I've heard of him.
All right. I was introduced to him as the Amazing Racist. He's got a new one on Netflix. He finally got his Netflix special that got revoked several years back. Remember when Kobe Bryant died?
Yes.
All right. Ari's brilliant idea the day that he died was...
That was me. If you heard the thump, that was me.
Sounded like a boop on my end.
It was my water bottle. I dropped it a little too hard, and I looked at my wave. I'm like, oh shit. And then you stopped, and like, god damn it.
I was worried I'd hit something on my end. I was like, what the hell did I do? But Ari Shaffir's decision on that day was to go on Twitter and talk about how shitty a person Kobe Bryant was and how he was glad he was dead. And the thing is, he didn't say anything about the man that he hadn't said, thousands of times before publicly. The difference was the man had just died. And he had just, got a Netflix deal to do a 1-hour special, which he instantly lost because of that particular tweet.
Oops.
So he released his next special, which was called Jew, which, just interesting parallel. George Carlin being raised hardcore Catholic, Ari Shaffir actually went to rabbinical school. I think his father was a rabbi and sent him off to, learn the trade, and he apparently was not a very, the way he would phrase it, like be a good Jew. All of the rules, if you ever get into the weird rules because they don't so much follow the rules laid out in the Old Testament so much as they follow, like with the Hasidics, the Talmud, which is a set of rabbinical teachings that is paired with the Old Testament.
Uh-huh.
So every rule that God ever laid out, they took it, dissected it into all these little extra individual ones and expounded upon them and made it even more restricting and more rigid. Like to the point of, you've got the commandment, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy, do no work.
Yeah.
Well, they went so far as to determine how far you were allowed to walk on a Sabbath without it being constituted as travel, which was work. And like one of the things he talked about was, if you've got a Jewish friend on Saturdays, just pop by unannounced, say hey, and ask if there's anything that you can do to help them out, because under certain sects of Judaism, it's breaking the Sabbath to turn off a light switch.
I'm at a loss for words.
And this is not funny. Me being anti-Semitic for the record.
It's funny. It's just
because I am religious. I am Christian, but I do follow a lot of Old Testament stuff that you don't see in Protestantism, like keeping kosher, for instance. But so I'm not making fun of any of that stuff. But some people take these things to extremes and they get too rigid and they don't allow for like common sense.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's like, you know, that anytime you have a religious extremism.
Well, I was raised Catholic, and obviously my parents are, I'm not going to say they're extreme, but they're definitely very devout. And, you know, they follow Lent. They go to church every Saturday, Sunday. You know, they do all the stuff. I don't do that anymore, even though I still believe and I still try to, you know, help my fellow man in the way a Catholic would. But I'm not going to follow all the rules. I don't go to church because I'm like my wife. I kind of think church is like a mafia. It's just like, you're here for the... What do you do? It's just like, oh, you come here to pray in the Lord's house, and we take your money. Why? Like, my parents, you know, they're always... It's like they understand I don't go to church, but it's like, you should go to church on Easter Sunday and Christmas. And I'm just like, oh, my wife is awake. It's just like, why? I don't need to go to church to pray. Yeah.
And then you got heathens like me. I didn't even own a Bible until I was old enough to drink.
Oh, I still have the Bible that was given to me from a CCD. For those who don't, it's just basically like after church lessons about gospel and such.
See, down here, you know, I told you I grew up thinking I was Southern Baptist. I don't know if this happens outside the Bible Belt or not. We would do during the summer, we'd have vacation Bible school, and I guess the closest thing that we had to a family church on my mom's side was where we always did it. And I was always like the troublemaker, because I remember the last year that me and my brother went, like the topic that they were doing with us was this stuff where they were kind of bringing in the wonders of God's creation, and we were talking about animals that were really unique. And then they would give us like a memory scripture, and I never bothered to memorize any of the scriptures because I was a little, you know, hellraiser. And the last day that we went, we didn't finish it that last year because it was like a week long, and we only went for 4 or 5 days. The last day we were there, I got into an argument with Aberdeen, the lady that was doing my class, because she said, now, the animal we're going to talk about today is one of the strangest ones that God ever made. It's a mammal that lays eggs. Does anyone know what it's called? And, of course, my hand's up because I know. And she's like, what is it, Dane? It's like, you talking about the platypus? Yep, the platypus. And she's like, the duck-billed platypus is this. And it's the only mammal that lays eggs.
Don't echidnas lay eggs?
That is what I pointed out. I said, excuse me? What? There's two. Two what? There's 2 mammals that lay eggs. The platypus and the echidna. And she kind of looks at me for a minute. It's like, what's an echidna? I said, it's kind of like a spiny anteater. It lives in Australia and it lays eggs. Dane, stop making things up. I'm like, bitch, I've got Sonic 3.
Oh, you just reminded me of a... did you ever watch Red vs. Blue? The Halo
once in a while,
series? Yeah,
but I didn't really follow it.
You just reminded me, like, I think it's like the first or second episode where he's talking about, it's like, we just acquired the warthog. It's like, why is it called a warthog? It doesn't look like anything like it. It's like, you see these 2 things, these 2 toe hooks up front, they look like tusks. Name another animal that has tusks. A walrus. I thought I told you to stop making up animals. But it's actually that same skit where every time I see the word puma, I'm like, what in Sam hell's a puma?
It's a shoe.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I got into an argument with her. I got in trouble for making things up and for disturbing the class. And I come out and got in the car, and I'm like, Mama, this is... Yeah, I didn't say this is bullshit, but, you know, I didn't cuss at the time. I'm like, this is so messed up. She tried to tell us that platypuses are the only mammals that lay eggs, and I told her about echidnas. You and me, we looked it up in the World Book. We looked it up whenever we were trying to figure out what knuckles was. You know I wasn't lying. Yeah, I know you weren't lying, Dane. And she said I was disturbing everything. Were you disturbing everything? Well, she was wrong. And then my brother goes, yeah, I had problems in my class too. And my mom's like, what problems did you have? She told me that since we don't go to church every Sunday that we're all going to go to hell. And my mom's like, y'all ain't going back tomorrow. I'm like, we're not going back over that? Echidnas, Mom. Echidnas. Where are your priorities, woman? Every time we walk in there, they're yelling about us going to hell. It's a Southern Baptist church.
If Bobby Boucher's mama was around, she'd be like, echidnas are the devil.
They probably pay foosball. Oh, I know we talked about George Carlin some.
And
we ain't talked in like 3 weeks. Listener, you just got to deal with the tangents.
If you haven't figured it out by now that this show is mostly tangents, we don't know what to tell you.
This show is an excuse to hang out every couple weeks.
We are here to provide some knowledge about the topic at hand. About 10% knowledge, 90% tangents. And I guarantee someone, Dalton or Nate, if someone's going to say, you guys are... Jeff was wrong with the math. Like, I don't give a fuck. This show's about fun. This show's not about exact math.
Although I do like exact math.
God damn it. You're talking to the wrong person.
I was the kid in math class who would spot the mistakes on the questions. Like, this happened so many times, like discrete math, which was like an algorithms course in high school. And I took it because I thought it was going to be a gimme, but it actually ended up being interesting and I had fun with it. And I kept finding mistakes that Mr. Maston, cool dude, would make on the test. And like in the middle of the test, I would get up and go up to his desk like, Maston, none of these answers are right. What are you talking about? And he'd look at it, I'm like, you want me to just write an option E and make the right answer there, or you want to give everybody else the option to get this one right? And you're like, everybody, this question, and he'd write a new set of answers up on the board. Like, go sit down. The funniest was one time he handed out a bunch of tests and said, all right, I got to go do something. Y'all, no talking, no cheating. I'll be back in like 10 minutes. And left the room. And then someone noticed that he had stapled the answer key when he had run the copies off. Yeah. So it had the full test and the answer key on the back. And everyone's like, quick, just rip it off and throw it away. And I'm like, he just told us no cheating. You think he doesn't know? I really don't want to take that risk. So I just did the whole test and I made him an origami crane out of the answer key. And when we turned it in, I was like, thanks, Maston, but I didn't need the answer key. And I handed it to him. He's like, how'd you get that? I'm like, everybody had it. Ratted everyone the fuck out. I was such an asshole.
I wish I was that intelligent, but this was during a time when I'm just like, I want to get out of school and play video games. Now here I am as an adult. I want to get out of work and play video games. And I don't stream.
Video games are all math, dude. It's all math.
And I suck at math. I was really good at geography, but I suck at math.
I was great at math. I sucked at grammar.
I can do math, but I'm terrible at mental math. If you tell me, it's like, I need you in your head to do this equation, I'm not going to be able to do it. I have to be able to write it out and see the numbers.
I'm good with it in my head up to a point, but like when me and my wife will be like working on our budget, if she starts just rattling numbers off at me, once I hear so many, I think my dyslexia kicks in and it just turns into number soup and I can't keep anything straight. Mm-hmm. If I can see the numbers, I don't have to write the answer down. I can just kind of look through and get the problem right. It's like at one point I taught myself how to estimate square roots, and I got pretty damn good at it. But I never memorized my full multiplication table.
I'm trying to think. I think I remember seeing that too.
Like, having to memorize, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times, all the way through from like 1 to 12. I only memorized the first half. So I don't know off the top of my head, knee jerk, what 7 times 8 is.
56.
But I do know,
56.
Yeah. But I know 7 times 4 is 28, times 2 is 56. That's how my brain works.
I will say this is another one of those fun tangents. When I first discovered this, I was like, haha, I'm intelligent. The multiples of 9, you can even, like 9 times 0, all the way up to 9 times 10, is a mirrored image. I'm sorry, no. Wait, 9 times 1, all the way to 9 times 10. Because 9 times 1 is 9, or if you double digits, 0, 9. What's 9 times 10? 90. So the numbers eventually mirrored themselves and flip. If that makes
And
if that makes sense. 9
if a
times.
number is evenly divisible by 9, then you can add up all the digits and you'll get a number that's divisible by 9. If it's, if you add up all the digits and it's divisible by 3, the same thing. If a number is divisible by 2, then, the last digit will be divisible by 2. Divisible by 4, you use the last 2 digits. Divisible by 8, you use the last 3. I used to know the pattern for 7. It's really, really convoluted, but it's been so long I forgot. Divisible by 5, it's either a 0 or a 5 on the last digit. Shit like that. I love all those math patterns.
But George Carlin. Yeah,
Well, I think the only thing we didn't really cover that is your big experience is, we didn't talk a whole lot about Jersey Girl. We just kind of shouted it out. The only major role that the man had.
Even though it was still a side character, it's definitely his most major role.
Yeah.
And he
was a secondary character in it, but yeah.
I will say his last line in that movie, he's talking to Ollie. This is right after when they did Sweeney Todd for his daughter's play. His last line broke me because I'm trying to remember exactly. It's just like basically along the lines of "I don't want to die alone," and I'm just like, well, this is 2004. He was only 4 years away from dying, and I was like, man, this. And I sent you a message back, man. I really hope he wasn't alone when he died.
Yeah, the end of that movie still gets me. And the one thing that I'm the most sad about, he always said that he thought Kevin Smith was the only writer that could write the perfect role for him. And that was the role of a priest who murders children. And apparently Kevin Smith had promised that eventually he would figure out a way to work that into a script, and he never got to before the man died.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll definitely. I would like to talk Jersey Girl properly as an episode in the future. So we mentioned it. It's my favorite Kevin Smith movie. I know it's not yours, but you like it a lot.
Actually, that is one of my favorite ones that he's done. It's not my number one, but yeah. As far as like the movies that he did that are not in the Jay and Silent Bob continuity, it's his best, hands down.
Yes, we'll definitely talk about that movie in the future. This episode is just mostly tangents, and talking about his stand-up.
And I think it'd be worth revisiting one day down the road after you've had a chance to watch some more George Carlin stand-up.
No, I'm perfectly down. We're doing that.
Or do Last Words, the first episode of Media Dump for Books.
Actually, when I finish reading this book, maybe we could do like a little book club thing, devote an episode on his book, while at the same time going back. It's like discussing more of a stand-up. So I guess that could be we'll revisit him when I read and finish his book. Because books are media. We haven't tapped into it yet.
True. We gotta probably talk Dalton into coming on for Vermis.
What's Vermis?
Oh, dude. Last tangent of the night, and then we'll wrap this up. All right. So, are you familiar with the concept of games that don't exist?
Yes.
So, there is this entire small niche on the internet of people who make like game guides for fake video games.
Mm-hmm.
So, like eliciting the style of those old like the Prima strategy guides and shit that would be full of like game artwork and breakdowns and walkthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who make these for games that do not, have not, never will exist. Vermis is a 2-part guide to a game that does not exist. And trying to understand what this game is about is like trying to understand Dark Souls lore. It's like a 2-volume set. I think it's like $60 or €60 or something like that to order the set.
Yeah.
But this dude, he's done artwork. He's done all this like weird lore and wrapped it up in there, and it walks you through the whole game, but it never discusses game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've gone through part of it, and this is just some weird shit. And like the dungeons this game describes you going through like sound torturous to try and play, because it's the final dungeon of the game is supposedly like you enter it by going through this mirror, and the reason the mirror looks weird is it looks extraordinarily stark and like realistic, and when you reach out and touch it, you pass through it, and then it becomes this like weeks-long dungeon that you're traversing, where you keep going through mirror after mirror, going deeper into these shadow realms. And at one point, like, you get out in the sunshine and you think you're out and you're in these trees, and then you find yourself at another mirror. And you realize, fuck, you're still trapped in this endless hell. But, like, everything about it is just so fucking surreal. And this dude's got some really just disturbing art, but not in the sense of, like, you know, gory disturbing, but, like, just an unsettling style.
Okay, yeah.
But, like, this is the kind of dark fantasy game that I look at it, I'm like, I would love for this to be real, but I don't think that I would like to play it.
Maybe you would, if someone did a campaign for it.
That would be actually funny. Do a D&D campaign set in the world of Veramus.
Dalton?
Fuck that. You know what? I'll DM it.
There you go.
What does it all mean? We don't know.
We'll never know.
But yeah, I know I've got 3 hours in at this point on my recording. I know we've got a solid 20 minutes George Carlin talking all that tangent.
I think this is an excellent episode.
Well, sorry to disappoint, just because of things going on and the fact that I just could not get a good idea. We don't have a game for this week, and because whoever packages Discord for Linux is a dickbag and broke it, we got like a 45-minute late start.
And then you had to take an extra couple minutes for your dog to piss.
Yeah, because he decided, like, oh, hey, you getting ready to record? I really need to pee now.
So yeah, this was a late start to the episode.
And we were on track to start on time. Everything was going so good.
And Discord was just being a bitch.
Well, I don't know why Discord, and this is Discord, this isn't like, you know, Linux fucks with things. For some reason, Discord releases their updates on Mondays. And if it's not open when that update falls, when you try an update and it connects to the server, it will say, nope, you're out of date, and reject you. So you have to update it.
There's no way you can change that update schedule? Or it's programmed Monday?
Yeah, that is a Discord release thing. So that is with Discord. Their weekly hot patch schedule lands on Mondays. Or at least that's when the stable patch comes through.
Well, this hot patch fucked up your Linux.
Yeah, glibc. Apparently, this one is the Arch Repo's fault. They're relocating a fucking package and it broke part of the functionality, but it'll be fixed in a day or two. So while I can text through Discord, I can't do video chat or voice chat. So we're actually having to do this through Firefox.
And also while you're using a different camera, it's making you look squished. Well,
this different camera worked perfectly fine through the Discord client. It's just not wanting to work right on Firefox. So it's taken a 16:9 image and squished it down to 4:3. Well, Jeff, it's been fun talking to you, dude.
Yeah, it's been fun talking to you, and it's been fun learning about George when we were on topic.
On occasion. It happened a time or two. So I guess the only thing we got left is you've got the next pick, man.
I do. And I like to do another top 3 if you're okay with that. Because I do want to tackle a topic that we haven't quite discussed yet. And we made mentions of it here and there, but we never actually dove into music. I want us to talk about music. And the topic I want to do is a top 3 favorite video game soundtracks.
That is an interesting angle. And you had actually mentioned that to me the other day. I didn't know if that was what she was going to stick with or not, but I instantly knew the 3 that I was going to go with. So I know my list is going to be easy to pop off, so we shouldn't have any problem getting back on our regular schedule if you want to pick this back up next week so that we're going off on the off weeks from Steam Machine again.
No, that's fine. Yeah, definitely. Because, yeah, I have my list as well.
So we do have listener questions. We're going to hold on to them next time since we got such a late start. might be able to swing us a guest host since we're only talking video game music. We might wind up having somebody with us next week. I don't know. No one has said anything, and we've not gone fishing for invites yet. So I know you guys listen. If any of you want in, holler at us.
You know where to find us.
So I think that covers everything we've got for tonight. So if you've stuck with us this long, thank you. You're a champ. We love you. I've been Mr. Puzzles. He's been Grumpy Jeff. You've been our audience. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Steamy Media Dump. Jeff, you got anything you want to leave the audience on?
Fuck you too. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Our theme song is Pheonix Down by Nile The Nightmare. You can find a link to that track as well as his full discography in the show notes or by visiting nilethenightmare.bandcamp.com. Want to hang out with us and a bunch of other entertaining degenerates? Join us on Discord at bit.ly/TSMPDiscord, all caps. Enjoy the show, rate us where you're at, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Once I shove this red hot poker up my ass, I'm going to chop my dick off.